Tonight, we're going down the rabbit hole the government hopes you never peek into. Names like Project Bluebird, Artichoke, MK Ultra, they sound like garden clubs, but they weren't growing tomatoes. They were planting triggers in human minds. And now, just this week, a claim went viral that the Minnesota shooter's father was a CIA contractor, DOD, for 29 years. Is that real? We'll unpack it. But the fact that nobody blinks anymore when they hear that, that tells you how far down this path we've already slid, guys. So buckle in. This isn't a bedtime story. This is a Cold War black projects, modern psyops, big tech, big pharma, and a culture where lone wolves always look suspiciously like subjects. And yeah, The Catcher in the Rye isn't just a book report. It's starting to look like a programming manual. And I'll explain that in a little bit. All right. Now, first off, after World War II, the CIA looked in at Nazi scientists and Soviet experiments and said, hey, why let all the bad guys have all the fun? Not to mention they hired all those Nazi guys and brought them over, if you didn't know. So in 1950, they launched Project Bluebird. Then they transformed them into Artichoke. These were, they tested hypnosis, drugs, electroshock. Their own documents literally ask, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and against basic self-preservation? I'm not kidding. So translation, can we build a real-life Manchurian candidate? And the fact of the matter is, they probably did. There's evidence to it. We're going to talk about it. 1953, CIA green lights MK Ultra. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist, I think that's how you say his name, chemist, spook, and Bond villain wannabe. He's the one who ran it. 80 plus institutions, universities, prisons, hospitals. Most didn't even know they were working for Langley. They pumped LSD into students, prisoners, and even their own guys. You ever heard of Frank Olson, a biochemist? He was dosed by his own CIA buddies without his consent. He went out a hotel window days later, right? I got his thing right here. There's a documentary on this, I think on Netflix. I can't remember the documentary's name, but up there at Camp Detrick, Fort Detrick in Maryland. A lot of shady stuff went down there. Unofficial story, he self-deleted, right? Really, he probably saw too much. And then there's Dr. Ewan Cameron in Montreal, right? The Montreal, let me see, MK Ultra experiments. They went into psychic driving. Patients came in for depression and they left with their memories erased after weeks of high voltage shocks and drug sleep. And guess what? The CIA paid for the whole damn horror show. So when people say that's conspiracy theory, nah, man, we call that declassified history, right? They want to say, oh, conspiracy theories. No, it just hadn't been declassified yet. When MK Ultra got too hot, though, they just slapped on new names. So how it went was Project Bluebird, Artichoke, MK Ultra. Then in 1965, it went to MK Search. And basically it was refining drugs and delivery systems. Then they went to MK Often, testing pharma and, yes, rumors of occult edge. Now that should tell you something. All kinds of declassified materials. Man, I looked at all this stuff. It's crazy. They went to MK Chickwit, which was a global drug intel gathering. And then MK Naomi, where they were stockpiling toxins and biochem weapons with Fort Detrick. That name comes up a lot with these chemicals. Then you had Operation Derby, had overseas interrogations. So then they moved to foreign test subjects, okay? And let's not forget the Stargate program. In the 70s, remote viewing, psychic spying. It sounds goofy until you realize the DIA paid for Stanford Research Institute to run it for 2 decades. So if it was not working, do you think they'd be running it for 2 decades? And this is where we get into the spiritual thing. And I'm gonna go full circle with this. I'm going to go very deep in this in a moment. So the bottom line is when they tell you they shut it down, what they meant or mean is that they rebrand and outsource. Okay. So what happened after this, the committees where they just, Americans were shocked this kind of stuff was going on, right? The church committee exposed MK Ultra in the 70s. CIA Director Richard Helms destroyed most of the files. So what does that tell you when they destroy files? And we've seen that type of nonsense happening a lot lately. Files destroyed. Oh man, Epstein stuff's gone. So all the MK Ultra files were about destroyed. So you have deniability 101. That should scare you because in the reality, we don't know how far they got with this stuff. We don't really know. We're assuming, guessing. A lot of people say this is conspiracy theory. Man, this is declassified information. So how do you keep the games going? That's the question. Government got upset, or the citizens got upset this was going on. Simple. You don't run them in-house anymore. You don't run it under the CIA. You outsource it. Big pharma, R&D, disguise it as clinical trials. And I should have just did where they just, the Trump admin just push 4 new COVID vaccines. Yeah. Just green light. You wonder why big pharma is so wrapped up in the government. People like Pfizer, Moderna. They're so wrapped in the government because they're running black programs together. That's why they never get shut down. That's why there will never be accountability. You have defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, right? Then you have think tanks like RAND or SRI. So you have all these people. We've heard of the aliens that they're at military industrial complex, black sites, these alien craft, whatever they are. And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not crazy man talking. This was just in the congressional committee the other day. So whenever the public catches wind, it's not the CIA torture program anymore. It's just, oops, corporate liability. And this goes back to all these things happening at schools, SSRIs. Oh, hey, man, we got this new med. You want to try it? Right? Today, you've got DARPA's brain machine interference projects, the NIH Brain Initiative, all real, all public. And if you think there aren't declassified cousins with darker missions, you're still in kindergarten. If you're saying this is conspiracy talk, you're a sheep, because this is real stuff. The real stuff that the government is doing, has done, proved to be done, admitted to. If you didn't have anything to hide, you wouldn't be shredding evidence, burning it, right? But what they did was, after this thing went public, they outsourced everything, private. That's why the presidents don't know about the crash retrievals. Congress don't know about the crash retrievals, and you, most importantly, don't know. You don't know about MK Ultra. The president doesn't know about it. Nobody knows about it because it's done behind the scenes under the cover of deniability. So again, it's reality. And you wonder why Big Pharma has such a stronghold on our politicians. It's because of that reason. It's because of that reason. Because they're all in on it. Now, we can talk about real Manchurian cases, okay? Right? People point to these names. Sirhan, RFK assassin. He was a hypnotizable amnesiac. Said he didn't remember pulling the trigger. Says he didn't remember it at all. Okay? Textbook dissociation. You have Mark David Chapman that killed John Lennon. He was obsessed with a book called Catcher in the Rye. He literally sat reading it calmly after shooting Lennon, not fleeing, not panicking, like he just finished an assignment and was waiting for the bell to ring, right? In a lot of these shooters, this is something that happens with them. The capture the ride thing has came up a lot with these shooters. It makes me believe it's like, or at least to believe that it's like something they use so it gets the person back calm again and they go back into the trance. You look at Hinckley, who shot Reagan. His trigger, Jodie Foster obsession. But the zombie-like calm afterward matches the same pattern. Then you have Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. As a Harvard student, he endured brutal psych experiments under Henry Murray, who was tied to Intel funding. He called it torture years later. So he was in a program like this at Harvard. They're doing these things in colleges. A lot of these experiments. One day you'll see a flyer, or you'll see something, on campus. Hey, you want to be part of experiments? Make $100 a day, $100 a week, whatever. But here's the banger. If these guys weren't just crazy loners, why do so many of them look like textbook case studies from CIA programs? If you look through CIA programs, these guys are textbook to that. Let's not even talk about Charles Manson. He had lots of connection to people within MKUltra's programs. He also used a lot of drugs. Now, this image has been floating around a lot, right? The trans shooter claims her father worked for 29 years as top-level CIA DoD contractor. Now, I couldn't find any credible report to confirm that. This is just meme level info. But the kicker is the fact that it sounds plausible tells you how much the public already distrusts the system. The other thing is he had a drawing, weird writings in a book. He had a drawing of him talking to a devil. When every mass shooter looks like they wandered out of a Langley laboratory, the conspiracy practically writes itself, guys. Every one of them. Then let's talk about the famous Thomas Crooks, Trump rally shooter. His motive, still murky. No idea, no manifesto, no clear ideologies. Just weirdly a clean, long gunman profile with 12 cell phones and overseas accounts. He was a loner, never talked to anyone, but he had 12 cell phones and was always in contact with somebody that would go to the FBI building. Now here's where I'll drop the joke. If Hollywood wrote a script that lazy, Rotten Tomatoes would nuke it, okay? But when the CIA does it, the media eats it up like it's gospel, right? Now, the real danger here now is you don't need LSD cocktails anymore. You got AI that can map your brainwaves, predict your behavior, flood your feed, and trigger responses, okay? And over the past week, I've seen crazy things, I think 5 or 6, where someone was talking to AI and then did something absolutely insane afterwards. So you've got DARPA literally working on direct brain interfaces right now. Old MK Ultra was crude, right? The new game is subtle, algorithms, nudges, digital hypnosis. They don't need to drug you when your dopamine feed does the job better than the CIA ever dreamed of, right? It's happening right now. And the thing is, going back to like this shooter, I wasn't into politics years ago. If you start out watching Black Scout Survival, man, I was teaching how to take guns, knife fight, start fires, shoot guns, make traps, right? But what I noticed is the media was running psyops in real time. I remember early pandemic that one during that time, 2019, 2020, well, even previous to that, I just noticed how the media outrage over Donald Trump, number one. Okay. I'd never seen anything like it before. And that's when I really started paying attention. Okay. But then I started noticing the division tactics with BLM and so on, the racism thing, white man bad. And then I noticed one day I was watching the news, Donald Trump had given a speech, and then it cuts to the mainstream media, and they say completely opposite of everything he said. Like, I'm like, I just watched the man speak. He'd never said any of these sort of things. And that's whenever I really started paying more attention. And one, I realized that presidents are just mascots. The real power sits in the shadows. And finally, I realized this isn't just political, it's spiritual war. Evil versus good, order versus chaos. And if you don't have your soul armored up, the programming will eat you alive. That's why I keep telling you mental toughness, faith, and vigilance. Now, the thing is like we just talked about the other week with the crash retrieval, the UAPs and such, the Congresswoman, Anna Paulina Luna, brought up Enoch, saying that what she's seen that's not open for civilians to look at lines up with that. I heard Tucker Carlson said that he spoke with very high-level people, and he brought up the spiritual aspect of it. Then throughout the Biden administration, you notice how they were chipping away at everything Christ-based. And that's when I realized, man, this really is spiritual. And then we find out the CIA was running some type of occult stuff for 20 years. 20 years, our Central Intelligence Agency was doing occult, working with the cult. I'm not even going to get into today about NASA, Aleister Crowley, and so on. But every time you look at pinpoints back to these things, right? That's why, like the church says, this one isn't out yet. No one is coming to save you. It'll come out soon. No one's coming to save you, but mental toughness, faith, and vigilance. No one's coming. Because in the real battlefield, it's not just foreign soul, man. It's in your head. So the truth is, MK Ultra is history. MK Search, MK Often, Naomi, history. But the mentality didn't die. It got privatized, digitized, and buried under NGOs and biotech firms. The goal is the same: control behavior, erase resistance, and manufacture outcomes. The only defense: stay awake, stay armed, physically, mentally, and most importantly, spiritually. And also, if the doctor offers you some kind of medication, take a second to step back and look at it. Because the real Manchurian candidate is he's not in the movies. He's walking around right now waiting for his chapter to be triggered. It's deep, right? It's deep. Deep stuff. And the darker you go down these files, man, I encourage you to do it. Don't ever take my word for it. Go look for yourself. Because whenever I talk to a regular person about these sort of things, they're so brainwashed. That's how you know. When you look at Yuri Besimov says, even my own subscribers lately, they're attacking, but they're not watching every video. Because if you watched every video, you'd be like, yep, I'm with you. Because I'm no different than you. As I keep researching the darker stuff I find. It's not like one day I just woke up, you know what, man? All these guys are bad. Nah, I didn't think that way. Not even 6 months ago. But as time goes on, and especially seeing what our current government does and who they conspire with and so on, you notice it's all dark. Guys, I know it's Labor Day. I hope you guys have a great day off tomorrow if you do have a day off. And if you don't, you're a champion. And man, you're the type of people that keep America running. Also, we don't ever do them, but we're going to do a 20% off on all apparel. That's hats, man, shirts, stickers, everything. Code is LAB Day 20. So Lab Day 20. So Labor Day 20, but also throw in lab because what we're talking about. Lab Day 20. I'll put in the comments so that way you don't forget. Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I want to know your thoughts, man. I want to know your thoughts. It's a dark hole. It's a dark hole to go in. But I do appreciate you hanging out with me. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hope you have a blessed Labor Day. And stay frosty, stay strapped, and always stay dangerous. Black Scout out.